Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. Come, now is the time to worship. Psalm 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations. Hebrews 13:15-16. Through Jesus, therefore, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess his name, and do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices, God is pleased. From the outset, let us agree that we can never say enough of the matter of worship. Jesus made one remark that covers the whole gamut of worship. In talking to the woman at the well, he said, God is spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the spirit and in truth. Worship is divine. Worship is sincere. In other words, Jesus was very clear in telling the woman that when it comes to the matter of worship, your worship ought to be directed to and about God, and it must be sincere. Jesus paints the picture that worship is this experience that is all about God, and if you're going to engage in worship, be sincere in what you do or say. So what is worship, and why the big hula baloo about worship? First of all, worship is about God and directed to God. Who else or what else would you worship? God is the only being who has earned the right to be worshipped, although sadly enough, some of us worship all kinds of persons or things and fail to worship God just as it was intended to be. So the writer of the psalm we started off with tells us something of worship. You can use noise and words and exuberance. This grand display of worship is not meant for public scrutiny, although it sometimes occurs in public. Rather, it is a personal experience, so that whether you are in church, among friends, by yourself, give yourself permission to be vocal, to be unrestrained, because this is about God. This great God is the one who we worship. He is the one true God. I know there are numerous other persons or things that some people worship, but this psalm tells us three indisputable and amazing reasons to worship. 1. Worship God, for he is God. There is no other God like the God who created the earth and the whole universe. If he is supreme, if there is no other person higher than God, then he deserves to be worshipped. Later it says that the Lord is good. God deserves the best, and might I just say this, God does not want to share you or the worship you give with any other. So we worship God simply because he is God. 2, we worship God because he made us. Human beings were not the end result of a scientific experiment. We did not create ourselves. We throw out every theoretical explanation about the creation of man, and we stand squarely on the Bible, which says that God created man and woman out of the dust of the earth in his image, and man became a living soul. It is a miracle how God did all of this amazing work with no assistance, and look at how beautiful or handsome you've turned out to be. This is a powerful God, and he deserves our worship. 3, the writer says that in the act of worship, we should give thanks to God and bless his name. What can we give God thanks for? We give God thanks for his goodness. We give God thanks for his mercy and his grace. We give God thanks for his faithfulness. We give God thanks for his provisions to us, whether one time or all the time. God is a good God, and he is able to give because he has unlimited supply of what we need. And because his resources never run out, then we can set up a time when we will stop what we are doing and worship God in the form of thanksgiving. Before I forget, worship is defined as that beautiful expression of ascribing honor and praise and adulation and reverence to God. Worship is not a prescription, and it is certainly not an item on your list of activities that church consists of. Worship is dynamic. Worship is exciting. Worship engages the emotions. Worship thrives on sincerity. Worship is personal. Why do you go to church and participate in activities when you don't mean it or you believe you don't have any reason to worship God? That is not true, but the reality is that true worship is a heart thing. It is the highest form of expressing something of high value to one who is most deserving. Worship means that you're responsible to making it happen. It starts in the mind, where you make a decision whether you're going to worship or you're going to not participate. Even spontaneous worship is generated by a quick thought process. Permission is granted, and it makes sense to be ready because whether worship can be wild. King David, for example, danced with no inhibition and no restraint. That man was a model of how we should worship God. Worship was priority for David, and he did his best to do it often. Finally, you cannot outdo God in worship. You cannot worship too much. You cannot be too exuberant while you worship. Reverence mixed with sincerity is the emergence of true worship. Today is as good a time as any to worship the Lord in the beauty of his holiness.